This is Kentucky Afield Radio. This is Ron Rohde, Kentucky Afield's first host back in 1953. Now, I'm proud to present Charlie Bagley.
Will the snow ever end? Will spring ever get here? All ways of saying, I sure wish it were turkey season. We go inside outdoors to discuss the official arrival of spring with the state turkey coordinator himself, Stephen Dobey. Regulations-wise, there's some new stuff to look at, plus some old sins to avoid, and a helpful national effort to enhance wild turkey habitat everywhere. And are you taking aim on a grand slam? It's all next on Kentucky Afield Radio.
I never knew I had an artistic flair until my best friend put a paintbrush in my hand.
More people are finding hidden interest because someone first took an interest in them.
Most of my groceries come from my garden. My neighbor taught me how.
If you're a sportsman or a sportswoman, who's the hidden hunter in your life? Asking someone to come along just might create lifelong interest.
It'll be a great trip. Got your camo?
Take aim on sharing a tradition.
Got it.
After all, someone did it for you. Google Kentucky Hunting to learn more.
When I'm 15, I'm going to be prom queen. When I'm 15, I'm going to have my own limo and private jet.
15 is a good year. Just ask Kentucky Fish and Wildlife. To honor our 15th anniversary of elk hunting, the new Pick 4 option doubles your chance to take home a trophy.
When I'm 15, I'm going elk hunting.
The Kentucky Elk Draw. Is 2015 your lucky number? Get your elk permit and dream big.
sw.ky.gov.
Welcome to Kentucky Afield. This is Charlie Baglin. It is time to talk about turkey season. It's officially spring when you hear about the arrival of turkey hunting. So we're going to talk to the pro, the man in charge of all things turkey for the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife. His name, Stephen Dobey. And Steve, since the last time you were on the show, a new turkey hunter has come into the world.
This is true.
Congratulations on your son.
I sure appreciate that.
When was he born?
February 17th.
February 17th. You, your wife Amanda, all doing well?
Everyone as well, just learning to adjust to this new sleep schedule.
Yeah. What is your new sleep schedule?
The little one is in charge, so it is at his will when we will sleep.
Maybe 2 hours at a time? What's the story?
He has actually been very gracious to us and allows us 3 hours, usually between feedings, and then he makes it very well known that it's time to eat.
Yeah. Can you sleep in shifts?
That's usually what we do. Kind of plan it out. It works pretty good.
That works out. I don't know how long that continues. Does that go on for 6 months or 2 years or what?
Less than a year. From what I hear, depends on from child to child, but generally less than a year. They'll settle down and need a little more time between feedings, and I cannot wait for that day.
So his name is James Dobey.
Yes.
And is a turkey hunter. We presume would be.
Probably.
Should be.
Should be.
If he is reared properly, he will be a turkey hunter.
Yes, he will.
I don't know a whole lot about little babies, but I know a little bit about parents and grandparents, like my wife, for example. And you tell me if this has begun at the Dobey house, where she has a young granddaughter. The little baby's probably 8 months old. And from the day she was born, she will look at that baby and say, who does she look like? Does she look like me? Does she look like grandparents? Does she look like my son? Are you and Amanda looking at the child and saying, who does he look like?
Oh, no, it's very obviously that it looks like me. there's no question.
Well, and I'm the step-grandfather in the situation. I'll look at the little baby and say, Pam, it's clear she looks like me. Everybody else, though, in the family is going to look at the little baby and say, well, it's obvious it looks like me. It takes from my side of the family.
Everyone will claim it. Yeah. I can definitely claim this.
I think there's probably going to be enough resemblance that you will see she is in the family.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I think it's great. I'm glad that you took time away from your nap to come in and talk today about turkeys. When's the season get started?
The youth season will be the first Saturday this April. So that's, I believe that's the 4th and 5th.
Then you skip a week. You skip a weekend.
Yep.
Why is that?
Our turkey seasons, we have them established so that the opening day is the Saturday closest to April 15th. There are years that's the second weekend in April. Then there are some years there's a little bit of a shift in the calendar, and it becomes the third Saturday in April. So it's not a fixed.
Okay.
The date is fixed. It's the Saturday closest to April 15th, but the day that falls on actually can go back and forth between the second and third Saturday. This year happens to be one of those years.
So the youth weekend is always the first.
That is correct.
And then the opening weekend is the closest to the 15th.
That is correct.
Okay, I didn't know if there was a weekend in there purposely built into the calendar so that maybe the turkeys wouldn't be coming call shy.
Generally, no, it's when, typically we will have 1 week in between, but maybe not 1 weekend. This year we do have a full weekend in between, and it can be a good thing. Last year it would have been a great thing because the winter was so rough and the spring was so late that we could have really benefited from having our season start later in the year. You know, it's interesting. You hear everyone just assume earlier. I want my spring season earlier. Mm-hmm. I hear them gobbling, I can't do anything about it. Well, yeah, that's by design. We want those hens to be bred before we go out there en masse and shoot every breeding tom turkey that we see. That's why we do that. Then some years like last year, you can't control the weather, obviously, and spring was so late, it delayed breeding activity, and actually the tail end of our season last year in May was much more productive than April was.
But you made a point, Stephen, that you want the hens to be bred. That's part of what wildlife management is all about. It's not like you're scheduling vacations and days off for a turkey. Yeah. What managing wildlife is really managing people so that, yes, for the perpetuation of the species.
Yeah. Really, we look at it as whole statewide level. We take nowadays about 30,000 birds each spring. That's a lot of birds. And we take them between the statewide season and the youth season. That's 25 days. We kill 30,000 birds roughly. Can we do that year in and year out? Sure, we can do that, and we can do it successfully and not harm our statewide flock. Now, if we start hunting in late March and do that, that makes a big difference because now you're killing up to 30,000 birds out there that would otherwise be breeding hens in a few weeks.
Replacing them.
That could have an impact on population growth. And between the state wildlife agencies and the NWTF, guys, they've worked so hard to get turkeys where they are today. We don't want to do anything to jeopardize those efforts.
I was looking on the web, Steve, and there are a couple of maps, the North American Wild Turkey Range. Mm-hmm. Of course, I'm clever. I printed this color map in black and white so I can tell light from dark. Mm-hmm. You know, we don't have in our budget a color printer for such needs. And also printed another one here about the largest turkey harvest counties, reporting this is go back, the most recent year was the 13 year, right?
Correct.
So for 2013, that's what I found on the Fish and Wildlife website. Okay. And I was looking at this North American Wild Turkey Range here in Kentucky. It's the Eastern Wild Turkey. Mm-hmm. There are 4 or 5 which make up the Grand Slam on this continent. What is that? You get the Miriam?
The Grand Slam is 4. Eastern, the Rio Grande, the Miriams, and the Osceola.
I guess I was thinking the Goulds.
You can add, I believe the distinction is it's the Grand Slam, the Royal Slam, if you add the Gould in there with it. Yes.
The Grand and the Royal. Mm-hmm. I've had this friend in Henry County, Trimble County area. Haven't seen him much, but we were really good friends, and he grew up in an area where plenty of turkey, plenty of deer, great place. The mother was ill, and I'd say, hey, you want to get together, watch a game, do something? I would, but, and it was always, I would, but. Mm-hmm. And I understand he had had a life of his own, but we live over an hour apart, but it's, I would, but. And then one day the phone rings. And he says, I said, what are you doing? He says, well, I'm driving. I said, well, cool. You must be in the neighborhood someplace. Let's get together. Because normally you're always home, busy. Well, no, I'm actually on my way to Texas. I'm going to try to do the Grand Slam. Now I know where I fit in his priorities.
A lot of people realize that in April and May, where they rank other people's priorities.
Because to do the Grand Slam, pretty easy. You can start in Kentucky, and again, I'm looking at my black and white colored map. if you were to leave the Osceola out, which is a Florida turkey, you could probably knock that out in a year. Could you? Do these hunting seasons align themselves so that if a hunter wanted to do this all in the spring, that those seasons in various states would accommodate?
It'd be a lot of traveling, and obviously a lot of expenses incurred doing that for out-of-state and resident, non-resident fees, lodging. Conceivably, it could be done.
We'll pick up there as soon as we come back. You're listening to Kentucky Afield Radio. Kentucky Afield Radio. My name is Charlie Baglin, and we're talking to Stephen Dobey about wild turkey hunting season. Time is now upon us, the greatest season since deer. All right, Steve, shaking his head yes. We're talking about the Grand Slam, and I had a friend over in Henry County. Where he is today, we don't know, but once upon a time, he set out on the trail to do the Grand Slam. Almost, but fell short by, I think, a turkey.
Yeah.
But I don't know, he was out there on the quest, and maybe the quest is part of that. Yes. Just trying.
Yeah.
I went for it, even though I didn't get it. I gave it my all.
Yeah. It'd be exciting. I don't know that I could do it in one season. I'd have to...
Have you done it in your life?
No. I've only ever hunted Easterns.
Well, you act like it's an impossible thing, and here you are, the turkey coordinator.
Within a season, it'd be tough.
You have only hunted the Eastern turkey.
I have. Yes.
But you've talked to people. You know people that have done the Grand Slam. It has to be a matter of pride.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like playing every golf course in Alabama, the Robert Trent Jones, that sort of thing.
Oh, yeah. And once you go out there and you do it and you knock it out, turn around and start over again. Try to do it again.
The coolest thing I have done is seen every Major League Baseball park. Not in the same year. Mm-hmm. Took probably 15 years to do it, but I did it, and so I understand the quest is part of the glory.
Oh, yeah. What was your favorite ballpark?
Oh, it was Pac-Bell Park. It is instantly Pac-Bell Park. That's what it was called when I saw it. It's where the San Francisco Giants play, right there on the bay. Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Baseball stadiums are always tearing one down, building a new. It's a moving target. Mm-hmm. There's a new one now in Minnesota, South Florida, 2 in New York I've not seen. I don't know that I ever will. I don't know if I've got it in me to try to fight the traffic and buy the tickets and mess with parking and getting lost. Because it's an ordeal. It's easy to go to Cincinnati or St. Louis. Mm-hmm. But when you try New York and Seattle, Detroit, you get turned around in these places. Some of these places, you don't really want to be at night.
The day games.
Yeah. Okay, we got astray. So my friend had set off to do the Grand Slam. Not the Royal Slam, but the Grand. Looks like he was going to have to drive pretty far. We only have the closest other turkey to us is way out in Nebraska or down in Florida. So,
if you live out west, you're fortunate enough you can be within a decent range depending on where you are, close enough to hunt different species. If you're in the east, you're gonna have to do some traveling. That's for sure. But then again, the beauty of the eastern subspecies that it is the most abundant bird out there. Estimated over 5 million birds in the U.S. So you can go to a lot of different states and hunt those birds. May not be a different species, but you still get to see a lot of different habitats and a lot of cool places. So while you only find them in the east, you find them everywhere in the east. So the beauty is you can really get and go to a lot of different states, kind of like you in the ballparks, see a lot of different states, seeing a lot of different habitats, and that's a lot of fun, even if you do just get to hunt the easterns.
So Kentucky, according to this beautiful map I have in my hand, we're right in the heart. I mean, right in the heart. And I guess Indiana could say they are right in the heart, maybe Tennessee, but here we are right between them. And so we have to be right in the heart of eastern wild turkey country. So how do we compare with, say, our surrounding states?
We are very fortunate in that we're blessed with some great turkey habitat in the state. The weather and the climate where we're situated is just where it needs to be. We have good seasons. We actually have seasons. The temperatures, the rainfall, all benefit turkeys. If you look at the states around us, year in and year out, Kentucky ranks number 1 or number 2 in the number of birds killed per square mile. Annually, we're neck and neck with Tennessee, and we usually go back and forth. And honestly, after that, it's not that close. Next closest state is Missouri, and then down from there. So it's roughly 0.8 bird per square mile. So, if you round up, we're looking at, on average, about a bird killed every square mile of area in Kentucky. That's pretty impressive.
I had a list. I just don't know what year this was. That Missouri was number 1 with 58,000 harvested. Kentucky way down there with 28,000 at number 10. Do you remember the year that may have been the case?
We went through a stretch from roughly the early 2000s to about 2009 where we were killing about 26 to 29,000 birds a year. It's deceiving. When you look at just the number of birds killed, Missouri in particular, sometimes Tennessee will rank higher than Kentucky. But when you look at that as a matter of density, the number of birds killed per the area of habitat, which in turn kind of lends itself to how hard do I have to work to get a bird. You want to see a lot of birds in a small area. Kentucky and Tennessee rank highest in that, birds killed per square mile.
That makes perfect sense.
Yep.
And that's similar to what I've heard described as why Wisconsin is always the number 1 state for deer hunting.
Yeah, it's like Pennsylvania and bear hunting. It's just, there's some places they're just dynamite, and we're one of those for turkeys.
Kentucky sounds like it's becoming quickly a destination for hunters outside our state.
It is. Of course, we don't want to give away all our secrets for the non-residents, but we got some certain places kind of within the state that year in and year out also tend to produce more turkeys than others. That Green River region you were mentioning earlier, talking about some of the particular counties and how you can see.
Holy cow, yeah, you are right.
The Green River region is just phenomenal. It's just, if you had somewhere to get up and go and you felt like seeing someplace new, that'd be a great place to go. And typically what we see is, if we're in the bluegrass region or the mountain region, there's one big difference when you get into that Green River region. And that's the presence of more agriculture. And you don't see that in the mountains. You don't see a lot of it, really, in the bluegrass region. Get out there and you see a lot of things that become supplemental food sources for turkeys. And so they just tend to have more food available. It's more habitat that is not converted to, say, Walmart parking lots, things of that nature. And then when you keep going too far to the west, you may see those numbers drop off a little more. It's as simple as, as far western counties, Fulton, Hickman, roosting habitat is something that's important. If you don't have turkeys, you don't have anywhere to roost.
Has there been a turkey ever harvested in Fulton County?
Yes.
Because there are not many down there.
It's a lot of floodplain, and so what that means is that in years there is a lot of flooding, such in the summer. That poult production is non-existent.
Yeah. Hopkins County, Logan County.
Yeah.
If you want some great. We had mentioned earlier that Kentucky is right in the heart of turkey country. And so the very best counties in this state, what's in the heart of the heart? Do you know which county has the highest density and the highest harvest? There's a couple of little pockets of them. What is that area, that western coalfields region? Is there a body of water? What makes that so perfect?
What it is you get into that area, 2 counties I mentioned, it's sandwiched right between the 2 highest. You see a lot of agriculture there when compared to the rest of the state. But you don't want to look at it necessarily as the product of the agriculture being the food. The product of the agriculture to a turkey is that it breaks up the habitat. So you have openings, clearings, and direct contrast to forest. So it's a matrix of open forest, closed forest. So they've got the roosting habitat. They can go in at night. They can fly down, feed during the day. If it's summer, there's the agriculture, which benefits insect production, which in turn fuels the poult production in the summer. Because those first few weeks of life, those young turkeys are eating nothing but insects. So there's a lot of food for them. There's that nesting habitat. And so what you see in those areas is just a good matrix of different types of habitats to suit the different life cycle portions of the turkey. If you go all the way to the east, you're not going to see a lot of open habitat. It's all closed. It's all forested. It's mountainous, which is fine. We have a lot of great turkeys there. But there are things that are limiting to population growth. In that Green River region, there's just the perfect mix of everything.
go on to the Fish and Wildlife website, fw.ky.gov. There's this map, turkey harvest by Kentucky counties, that shows you where the hot spots are. It's not going to give you directions to them, but Buddy, it tells you where they are and basically where they're not. So if you want to maximize your time in the field come April.
Sure. And two, you can You can go to our website and look at the actual raw harvest numbers. They're on there, not in the map format, but you can go to our telecheck data and view that online, and it's up to date. So a lot of tools out there now where you can go online and try to help increase your hunter success.
The Kentucky Spring Hunting Guide is a good thing to have, and they're free wherever you buy your hunting license. That doesn't mean you have to buy a license to get one of these free. It's not that kind of deal. It's just free. You just go and pick one up. Or they're also free online. Find them on the internet, on your telephone, fw.ky.gov. A couple of things new this year. The Boone Track of the Kentucky River Wildlife Management Area. That's now open under statewide regulations for spring turkey and squirrel seasons. Also in Pulaski County at Ping-Sinking Valley Wildlife Management Area. That's now open under statewide regulations for spring turkey and squirrel. You would like to try your hand at hunting on public land. Our fishing report is just ahead, and then more on spring turkey season. So stay with us. You are listening to Kentucky Afield Radio. Charlie Bagman back on Kentucky Afield Radio. If you would like to share this show, say you heard something you like, you want to share with your buddies on Facebook, or you want to email it to a friend that maybe can't get the show on the radio where he or she lives, you can go to iTunes. You'll find us as a podcast. Also on YouTube, just search Kentucky Afield Radio. You can sign up for our channel if you'd like, and myhuntingandfishing.com. And then share or send the link. It's time now for our fishing report.
In western Kentucky, down at Kentucky and Barkley Lakes, as the sun comes out and the water warms up, crappie are going to start moving shallow. Right now, the water temperature is still in the mid to low 50s, so you're going to find the crappie still out there on the ledges and maybe in the flats just suspended. This is where that drift fishing comes in really successful, whereas the water temperature warms, you're going to start wanting to go a little bit shallower. Kind of the same story for bass. Bass are going to start following up as that water temperature warms. So I'm going to be fishing around some boat docks, around brush piles, but I'm also going to try those secondary ledges at the mouths of the embayments. Below the dams and tailwaters, still a lot of discharge, and so that fishery's kind of turned upside down right now. So, well, this is Paul Reister, and I hope you find a good day to go fishing.
Hi, this is John Williams with the Fishery Report for Southeast Kentucky. Fishing is heating up in the district at Cedar Creek Lake. The big bass are shallow and up in the creeks. Seeing some nice fish caught on Alabama rigs, also on jerk baits, and even crappie fishermen are catching some bass on minnows. So bass are 3 to 5 feet deep up in the creeks. Also, a lot of nice crappie being caught at Cedar Creek Lake, 12-inch and up on jigs and minnows up in the creeks around structure. Also in the district, Cumberland tailwaters have been very good as of late. I've seen some nice big brown trout, brooks, and rainbows, caught on a variety of baits including cranks, spoons, inline spinners, and also live bait. Late March, early April means walleye spawning at Lake Cumberland, Laurel, and Del Hollow. Those can be caught at night, especially on jerk baits, casting the banks with rattling rogues. As always, good luck and be safe.
This is Jeff Crosby with the Central District Fishing Report. It's a great time of year to catch a large fish as these larger fish move shallow in preparation for the spawn. You can catch a lot of these fish by casting jigs or plastic baits around shoreline cover, but it's also a great time of year to throw a jerk bait or a lipless crankbait around or adjacent to these spawning flats. Also, getting good reports of a few crappie being caught at many of our area lakes, especially Taylorsville Lake. Again, fish along trees that are adjacent to the creeks or river channels using live minnows or crappie jigs fished in about 6 to 10 feet of water. Finally, white bass and hybrid striped bass are beginning to make their spring spawning runs in the upper reaches of Harrington and Taylorsville Lake. So grab a pole, wet a line, and enjoy some excellent springtime fishing. Hope to see you on the water.
Kentucky Afield Radio, turkey season Youth Weekend is upon us. More with Stephen Dobey right after the break.
When I'm 15, I want to be prom queen. When I'm 15, I'm going to have my own limo and private jet.
15 is a good year. Just ask Kentucky Fish and Wildlife. To honor our 15th anniversary of elk hunting, the new Pick 4 option doubles your chance to take home a trophy.
When I'm 15, I'm going elk hunting.
The Kentucky Elk Draw is 2015 your lucky number. Put your name in the hat by April 30th to dream big.
sw.ky.gov.
It's easy to use fishing cliches and commercials.
Catch memories.
Hook some fun.
Or
you'll love it. Hook, line, and sinker.
So, with the catchphrases out of the way, next time you go fishing, ask someone to go with you.
See if we take the bait.
Introduce them to what you love so much. After all,
we already know the terminology.
Now, they just need to know how. Fishing. Your Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife can help. Log on to fw.ky.gov. We're back on Kentucky Afield Radio. My name is Charlie Baglin, and this is our second half hour, talking with the State Turkey Program Coordinator for the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife, Stephen Dobey. And, Stephen, tell me a secret. Where is it that you hunt?
I've got a few places, mainly kind of your honey hole. You know, you'll have one place you always go to, and you kind of want to see a few other places and get out and move around a little. I've got one place I just have a lot of confidence in, and I shall not divulge the
Do not need to make
place.
it any more difficult than it already is.
Yeah.
So somebody wants to get into this. They hear us talking. They hear commercials. What do they have? Somebody says, hey, I'm going turkey hunt. Why don't you come with me? Is this something you can do? Do you start out turkey hunting or do you start out hunting squirrels? What's the first timer really going to be looking at?
You know, it depends. Some people just decide. Some people may not want to hunt deer or waterfowl, and just decide, I'd really like to try to hunt wild turkeys. And same goes the opposite way. Someone may just hunt deer and that's it, for whatever reason. You know, folks that grew up hunting, you know, a lot of times start out with the small game, squirrel, rabbit, what have you. And what that does is it teaches you how to be quiet. Teaches you how to be patient, what to look for in the wild. And those are all characteristics that, you know, over time you build upon those and you can hunt those more elusive prey items like wild turkeys. And they are elusive. Turkeys are tough. They're a very weary bird. Amazing eyesight. That's patience and being still is one of the most underrated attributes that turkey hunters can work on.
So if a first-timer goes out there and sneezes, might as well go home. Phone rings, get a text, might as well go home.
Make sure
is that how it works?
Make sure that phone's at least on vibrate. And don't do what I did one year. I was hunting and I swore that I was being chased by a swarm of wasps. I'm running through the woods waving my arms like a madman until I realized it was my phone in my pocket vibrating. Fortunately, no one was with me when that happened, but that's a true story. I do not like stinging insects.
That's classic.
But yeah, and folks people can jump right into turkey hunting if they decide maybe they didn't hunt growing up. What I'd recommend is go to YouTube. Just type in turkey hunting and watch people and listen. Listen to them call and mimic the sounds of the birds. To start out, you don't have to mimic every sound. You can mimic a yelp, and you can have success. But more importantly, it's just getting out there and learning to be still, learning to be patient. Turkeys are one of those animals that most people are probably scared off more birds than they ever seen and ever knew were watching them, just because they can see you moving, and then they're disappeared before you even knew they were there.
Talking about stray sounds, your Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife offers wildlife ringtones. And the commercial goes, it's the call of nature, the call of the wild. And instead of a phone ringing or a buzzer, you'll have maybe a rattlesnake or a bird tweeting, turkey gobble, that sort of thing. And that's wonderful. I don't think that's going to scare the game away. But you have to realize, oh, wait a minute, my phone's ringing. I've got to look and check my text. Because you may not always recognize it. Say you have an elk bugling on your phone, and you know the elk aren't going to be bugling in April. Then you'll recognize that, and you'll know to check that text. Yeah. But yeah, that swarm of bees, that's what it say. You're running and flailing. Were you? Was that the word that you used? No. Arms waving.
Oh, I look like a madman.
I can see it.
Fortunately, my gun wasn't loaded, and I did have it over my shoulder. But it was in South Carolina, and it was very dense, thick, swampy habitat.
Yeah.
And I just knew that I'd bumped into a wasp nest.
And, of course, 20 seconds later, they stopped. Did somebody call you back? And there they are again. They're chasing me.
I thought the chase had resumed, I feared, but lo and behold.
Every 20 seconds, well, here they are. They must be wearing a watch. How do they do that?
I did not enjoy that.
I would give it anything for footage. That's great. I was down that direction once upon a time. I liked to backpack back in the day. This was in the 80s. And I went to the Blue Ridge Mountains, and it was snowy and icy. It had gone down to 12 degrees that night. I was by myself, camped out overnight, walking back to the car the next day, and it dawned on me, I said, I haven't seen anybody since I've been out here. No other hikers, no backpackers, nobody. And the instant I thought that, I slipped on some ice and went down hard. And as soon as I was laying there, I looked up, and here comes a hunter and his son. They both saw me laying there. And I'm sure they were both chuckling. I mean, the timing of that. Mm-hmm. So there are ways to learn. If you're going to be a first-time turkey hunter, good to have somebody to go with. Of course, you got to be legal. You need to have your hunting license and your permit. So the hunting license, my favorite in the whole list is the sportsman's license.
Yeah, absolutely. If
you're over 65, it would be the $5 license. The senior license, disabled license, gets you the same thing. But the permits you need, how many are you allowed to take?
In the spring, you can take 2 birds. In the fall, you can take up to 4 birds.
These are all gobblers?
In the spring, these are male birds or birds with a beard. So conceivably, they could be a female. As long as they have a beard, it would be a legal animal. Females can have beards, so we're not going to penalize someone that shoots a hen and honestly thought they were shooting a male bird. In the fall, it is either sex.
If you're, well, I hate to say child, but if you're 12 to 15, out there for the youth hunt, you do need your youth hunting license and a youth turkey permit. If you're 16 to 64, then you need a license and permit anyway. And over 65, you can get by with the senior disabled license. But what if you're like 10?
If you're under the age of 12, you're not required to purchase a license or permit when turkey hunting.
That's the way to go.
Find somebody has property or wants to take someone and just get out there and go. Turkey hunting is one of those things where just practice is the best part. Because while deer hunting, you can find a spot and just sit. And that's pretty much what you're doing.
That early exposure. I'm bringing this up, even if the child is, say, 6 weeks. You could have your baby out there.
James will not be turkey hunting with me this spring. I can assure you of that.
But he doesn't have to have a permit or license.
I can assure you that he has not yet mastered the art of being quiet.
But that's true. That's true. Yeah, but take him out there during one of those hours that he is asleep. I would hate to see him miss this opportunity, Steve, to be a good father, having your son out there, even though he's still in diapers.
Don't think I'd get much hunting done.
You'll listen to a recording of this show when he's 21.
That's right.
And he said, Dad, why didn't you take me? I was ready to go. I would have been good.
I'll just tell him I did.
I would have been good. In Nashville recently, we can change the subject. The National Wild Turkey Federation had their convention. And one of the things that I liked about their convention that I was reading about online was the Save the Habitat, Save the Hunt effort. And so habitat is the key to everything. And if you have good turkey habitat, you have good habitat for deer, bunny rabbits, and
grouse.
You name it. Because save the habitat, save the hunt. Were you a part of that? Are you up on this effort?
Yes, it's a really powerful initiative, and it's an important one at NWTF. And for those that maybe don't know, that's the National Wild Turkey Federation. And this initiative, essentially, you look at the past decade and even a little bit longer, we have seen a decline in the number of hunters. To some, that may seem like, well, that's less animals that are going to be killed. Well, it's much more than that, because hunters and those that buy hunting licenses, fishing licenses, ammunition, firearms, things associated with hunting, there's a federal excise tax or federal tax on a portion of those items that goes directly to funding state wildlife agencies. So while, yes, hunters kill animals in its population management, that is a big part of it. It funds everything that we do, management, research. So to see that number decline is troubling. At the same time, it's estimated in the U.S. that we lose about 6,000 acres of habitat a day to some means of development. So we're losing habitat, we're losing hunters. And so NWTF is taking this initiative and they're running full steam with it. Save the habitat, save the hunt. And the goals are to conserve or enhance 4 million acres of upland wildlife habitat, to create 1.5 million new hunters, and then to open access to 500,000 acres of habitat for hunting, shooting, or other types of outdoor recreation. It's really important, and if you're not involved with NWTF, they have local chapters all over the state. I'd urge you to seek them out.
Those acreages again, these are nationwide numbers.
Yes.
What were those again?
Conserve or enhance 4 million acres of upland
So that
habitat.
would be take land that could be in agriculture or might be sold for residential development, something like that. Or if it's just a hillside, it's always going to be a hillside. Does that mean you want to make some designation that this is now protected under some conservation management?
In some areas, yeah. If there's land that's available for purchase and there's an option for a state wildlife agency or a federal entity or the NWTF to get involved to conserve that land and make it some type of easement property or incorporate it into a WMA to conserve it for hunters, then yeah. Or if it's an area it's just been a pretty good area that's maybe decent turkey habitat, but you can take advice from the regional biologists or the NWTF or from the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife Agency. Get in there and do some habitat improvement, long-term habitat improvement, to really make that quality turkey habitat.
The subject is spring turkey. Back with our final few with Stephen, the new dad, Dobey. When we come back, I'm Charlie Beglin. You're listening to Kentucky Afield Radio. We've brought up the subject of wildlife management 2 or 3 times now during this show. And a lot of people don't like the word hunting. Well, you're just going out and killing everything. But it'd be one thing if that were true, if you just willy-nilly, like they did, say, in the 1800s.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of these things were wiped out, turkey and deer and buffalo. When you put the North American wildlife management model into effect, and that's sort of a scientific term that North America follows and seems to work, would you put that in English? What if you did it wrong? What if you went back to the 1700s and hunted without regulation then? Because if you go out and you take 28,000 turkeys, if you did that in February versus taking 28,000 in April, there's a real difference, and that's where management comes in. Explain that.
It is, and it's species specific, and I mean, for purposes of this, we're talking about turkeys, and the decisions we make in setting these seasons, the timing of the season, how long the season lasts, there's reasons and justifications behind all of that. And it's relating back to the biology of the bird and its life history. And so we're trying to maximize hunter opportunity, allow you and me to get out in the woods and honestly take a bird or 2 birds in the spring and then get out of the woods without causing any impact to those nesting birds later in the season, but still allowing all those hens to be bred in April. So it's a fine line, and we're doing our best to manage it. And I think we're in Kentucky we've done a great job of that. I'll just throw out an example. Our statewide spring season is about 25 days long. Now that's the youth in the statewide season. 25 days with a bag limit of 2 turkeys. And our neighbors just to the south, Tennessee, they have a statewide season that lasts about 45 days.
Really?
So it's
45.
almost twice ours.
What's roughly their season? They go on into May?
It starts oftentimes in March even and goes a little later into May. So the length of their season is almost double of ours. Their bag limit is 4. So they can kill twice as many birds as we can in twice the amount of time. How close do you think we are to killing the same number of birds each year?
Don't know. I'm going to guess they would take twice the number if we would.
It's almost identical.
Really?
And the lesson there is that we're killing the exact same number of birds, almost, in Tennessee that has double the season length, double the bag limit.
Okay.
So
do they have double the hunters?
No.
They have double the interest?
I'd say it's pretty uniform. Kentucky and Tennessee are quite similar, but the point is that it's the timing of the season. You can allow someone to hunt for 50 days, but the biology of the animal is going to determine when those birds get killed. So if you can time it 20 days around the peak period, you can maximize your success. And that's what I think we do in Kentucky.
And yet, despite the fact that these critters are harvested, your population goes up every year.
Yeah.
Well, Stephen, before we close the show, I wanted to go down some of the reasons. I actually had a couple of things here. Let's see if we have the time for some of these. Prohibited spring turkey hunting methods. These are what you can't do. I don't know if you have the same list in front of you from your memory, but can't use a dog.
Correct.
You cannot hunt from a boat. You can't possess an electronic or digital calling device.
So remember that, everybody, when you're out there and you fire that iPhone up.
Yeah. So if you got a turkey on your iPhone, and that's the ringtone,
just be mindful that if an officer were to hear that going off and you're in the process of hunting,
and you have your buddy back home say, I want you to call me every 3 minutes.
The officer may get wise to that. It is very possible.
That'd be great. So it's prohibited. You've got the list there in front of you. What else?
Hunting over bait. Obviously, turkeys are extremely susceptible to bait. Just don't even do it. In the spring, you shouldn't even have food outside the area around your home anyway. We have a ban on feeding in the spring. And one of the reasons is directly related to turkeys, is because they're so susceptible to bait. We don't want people baiting anyway for turkeys. So now there's no gray area. There's just no baiting. So if you get caught over bait, you're guilty. It's not a distance issue, what have you. And it does pose a biological concern. So hunting over bait is another thing. Now, if you're looking at a field that you've disked, you've manipulated, you've grown a crop, you've grown corn, something out there, attracting those turkeys, that's a natural agricultural process, perfectly legal. Something that folks may want to be mindful of this spring as far as legal weapons. We actually had some regulation changes that passed in the last year that are now in effect this spring, in that hunters can now use a .410 shotgun to hunt turkeys, and larger, so long as it's not larger than a 10 gauge. In the past, you couldn't use a .410 caliber shotgun or a 28 gauge shotgun. You can do that now.
What's the biggest sin or two that you see people do and say, you should have done that?
There's two things, physically moving and overcalling. I'd say those are the two biggest sins people make. That bird knows where you are. If you keep calling, it's not natural. So you're going to be doing a disservice to yourself if you overcall. Turkeys are very, very keen to movement. They're a prey species. Everything in that forest probably wants to eat a turkey.
But everything out there is moving. I don't know if the breeze comes up and blows a leaf. How's it going to distinguish that from your hand scratching your knee?
It doesn't matter. Those turkeys, they are so scared of everything in the forest. If it moves, they assume it's going to eat me, and they freeze. And they'll sit there in frozen state, like a statue. And finally, they always win. As soon as you say, I guess he's gone, and you go wipe that sweat off your brow, and he's gone. He was right there the whole time watching.
Yeah.
It's uncanny. So that'd be my two biggest sins is being still. You have to move every now and then. That's understandable. Just be mindful of it and don't overcall.
As a new dad, it seems natural that you would go turkey hunting, sit there very calm, and just fall asleep. Maybe get you a full 8 hours for a change.
Man.
What do you think?
Don't tell my wife.
Might have to go twice.
Get on to me. This buddy of mine, he had twins, and he was telling me one morning he had gone turkey hunting. It was the first time he had been able to go since he had the twins. And so he gets up and he's excited, and he goes out there, and he's sitting there leaning up against a tree, and he just falls asleep. He said it was the best hunting trip he'd ever had, and he startled himself when he woke up. It was like 1 or 2 in the afternoon. He'd slept against that tree for hours and hours. So I know kids can do that, but it'll be exciting times.
It sounds like you're going to have a great time being a dad, Stephen. I can't wait to have the little diaper Dobey on the show one day. We're out of time. This is Charlie Baglan inviting you to join us in a week, and we will go inside outdoors again right here on Kentucky Afield Radio.